And we are live. What is going on, everybody? Welcome in. We got a big slate. Colin, how we doing, man? Patrick, what's going on? Lots to get through here. Plenty of injury news coming in across the board, so should be plenty of value. Yeah, Colin, there should be plenty of value on both sites. We have a bunch of different guys getting ruled out with COVID. That's going to impact some rotations, open up some minutes. We're going to be keeping our eyes on the news all the way up until lock. Still a few things we're waiting on, but we do have some confirmation on some other things. D'Angelo Russell being out. That's going to open up some more usage on the Minnesota Timberwolves. We have Jakob Poeltl being out on the San Antonio Spurs. That's going to open up some usage for maybe a Drew Eubanks in your lineups at some very cheap price tags across the industry. So we should be able to have plenty of value for sure. And as always, I want to be keeping an eye on the chat. We're going to do a game-by-game breakdown here. And just kind of figure out where we're laying as far as the injury news and all that stuff's concerned right now. And then as more news comes out during the stream, if you see anything, let me know in the chat. And I'll be keeping my eyes on it as well up until 6:30 or so. I'll be willing to hang around if you guys are still asking questions. And let's go ahead and do a little bit of a game-by-game breakdown here. So, I mean, the first game, Portland at Cleveland, we do have some injury news with Lauri Markkanen and Kevin Love both being ruled as out in this one. So that's going to open up some more increased run for guys like Cedi Osman, Denzel Valentine, Lamar Stevens. And then also, you're probably going to be able to see a much more likely high ceiling game from Jared Allen because he's not really going to be battling for minutes and or usage and or boards with any of these guys. So it wouldn't surprise me in the least if he's a guy that gets a big usage bump here in this game. And Evan Mobley as well. And then, like I said, Cedi Osman, also another guy you could definitely be looking to as far as that one's concerned for sure. That's going to be opening up some usage. And we have plenty of it. I mean, right off the bat, I'll say some of the guys are standing out to me. I mean, Drew Eubanks, we talked about on the Spurs side of things. Cedi Osman in this game on DraftKings specifically at 3.6 is very cheap. So he's a guy that's certainly standing out to me as we go along here. That's just a very cheap price tag for a guy that's stepping into a lot of minutes here with both of those guys being ruled out. It's not as if there was only one guy ruled out. It's Lauri Markkanen and Kevin Love. So that's quite a bit of minutes, quite a bit of usage to be tossed around there between the two of these guys. It's 40-plus minutes for sure. So, and then we saw Lauri Markkanen play 35 minutes last time out. So, yeah, definitely a big bump up for Mr. Cedi Osman in this first game. On DraftKings specifically, like I said, no issues with you going to him in this one. And then also, I think Colin Sexton is really going to take on a big role here. He was a guy that was my lock of the night a couple of nights back, and he continues to be pretty cheap across the industry. He's only 6'3", and for that reason, I think that you could certainly keep looking to him on DraftKings specifically here. 36 minutes last time out, he put up 32.25 DraftKings points, and I think that his ceiling's even higher if he's able to really get it going in this one. So certainly going to like some Colin Sexton if you're playing over there on DraftKings for sure. And no issues with you going to him whatsoever. So, yeah, that's the first game here. As far as anyone else that's grading out good for me, I mean, Damian Lillard's priced way up on DraftKings at 9.7. On FanDuel, he's much cheaper. He keeps standing out to me on FanDuel, but as far as DraftKings is concerned, not exactly popping my model too much here. The other big news we have is on the Philadelphia side of things. Tobias Harris being ruled out with COVID, a guy that's a very heavy usage guy. So, I mean, that's a pretty significant piece of news. We already know that Ben Simmons has been out for quite some time. He's not expected to return. Now you're going to take Tobias Harris out of this rotation. That's going to open up a lot of usage across the board for this 76ers team. And a lot of these guys are grading out as very good plays for me. Right off the bat, I think Furkan Korkmaz is going to be the guy that takes the biggest step up here in his role in his minutes. He saw 25 minutes last time out, 28 DraftKings points. Traditionally has been a very good fantasy point producer at only 4.3 on DraftKings. He's making a lot of sense for me. And then you also have to be factoring in Gorgeous Nyang at only 3.8. Probably absolutely butchered his name there, but I don't know how to pronounce it. So he's going to be another guy that's stepping into a big role here. He put up 37.75 DraftKings points last time out. Both these guys really good producers. Korkmaz putting up 0.97 DraftKings points per minute. Nyang putting up 0.92 DraftKings points per minute. And they're both going to get a big increase in their playing time here where there's no Tobias Harris. So both those guys going to be great values for me, standing out for sure on the slate, and guys that I'd be willing to go to. In this one, Malik Beasley as well, with there being no D'Angelo Russell at only 4-1 on DraftKings, is certainly a guy that I'm going to be looking to go to over here on the Minnesota side of things. He's really standing out. I think he's just too cheap. Traditionally, a very good fantasy point producer. His minutes have been somewhat capped in the early going here with Minnesota, but we have seen him play 27 and 32 minutes the last 2 times out. And with no D'Angelo Russell, I would expect that his minutes and usage are going to increase here. So certainly going to like some Malik Beasley. And like I said, I can certainly see going to him in this one for sure. So Malik Beasley, another guy that I'd be looking to on this slate tonight that's standing out as a value play for me at his 4-1 price tag. And yeah, those are a few of the guys that are really standing out early on with the news that we currently have. Josh Hart's going to continue to be a great play if there's no Brandon Ingram. We're waiting on that news. Norman Powell expected to start in back to his kind of normal role on the Portland side of things, so he could stand out as a pretty good play here. And like I said, Jared Allen with the Cleveland news, I think is certainly going to be taking a step forward as well. So those are the main values that I'm seeing so far. Second game on the slate as far as Toronto, Washington is concerned. This game right now with no Siakam, no Scotty Barnes, I think the biggest guy that I'm really looking at with Scotty Barnes being out is going to be Svi Mikhailiuk. He's really taken a step forward on this role. At only 3.7 on DraftKings, he can shoot the 3 ball really well. We saw him get 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 15 points last time at only a 3.6 price tag. And it's not as if DraftKings really adjusted his price tag, and I'm liking him on both sites. I like him on DraftKings. I also like him on FanDuel. I think that he's really underpriced for his role right now. So on the Toronto side of things in the second game, he's the guy that's really popping off the page for me. And Svi Mikhailiuk is definitely going to pique my interest with there being no Scotty Barnes. Putting up 0.99 DK points per minute. And like I said, I do like him over on FanDuel as well. Priced very friendly here. Stepping into a big role on this Toronto side of things. And I'm going to certainly have interest, especially when you're factoring in this matchup against this weak Washington defense. They don't scare me whatsoever defensively. So Svi Mikhailiuk's really standing out to me on the Toronto side of things. And then when you're looking at the rotation, they're always really locked into their minutes. So guys like OG Anunoby, Fred VanVleet also going to have some massive ceilings here. Both guys expected to play right around 41 minutes as always. And like I said, the Washington matchup is very good. So these guys are going to continue to take on the load. VanVleet, OG Anunoby, there's no Siakam. Now there's no Scotty Barnes, so even a bigger bump up in usage. Gary Trent Jr. at 5-1 as well continues to see big minutes. We saw him put up 43 minutes last time up, 41 DraftKings points. 5-1, he did get a slight increase in his price tag, but still, with there being no Scotty Barnes, he's certainly going to get a bump up in usage. Chris Boucher is a guy that's an absolute fantasy point per minute beast that I would love to be playing, but they just seem to not really want to be putting him in their rotation right now, so it's going to be kind of tough to be going to him tonight because you kind of got to play minutes to produce fantasy points. So I'd like to say that I like Chris Boucher, but it's very clear the coaching staff doesn't really want to give him the minutes. And if he's not getting the minutes, he can't quite go out there and get you that ceiling game that you're looking for in your fantasy lineup. So I'd really be sticking to those guys I talked about. Ken Birch is another guy at 4K you could be looking to. He played 29 and 31 minutes the last 2 times out. Grading out is a pretty good play for me on my model here at his 4K price tag. He's putting up 0.74 DK points per minute. And he's certainly another guy that you could be looking to in this Toronto-Washington game. And with, there being no Scotty Barnes, the Toronto side is really the one that's popping the most. On the Washington side, as far as a pure upside at his price tag, Daniel Gafford's making some sense at 4.7. But it's not as if we're seeing him really play too many minutes is the problem. So it's not as if I'm really going to have too much interest in him at 4.7. He's been capped like right around 15 minutes. So I think I have a lot more interest in the Toronto side of things, where there being no Scotty Barnes, opening up some usage here. Montrezl Harrell on the Washington side, we have seen take a step forward at times when Gafford was out, but now that's not the case. So it's kind of too, I don't know. It's a little bit skeptical to be going to him. A little bit skeptical as far as what his true upside is going to be. And now his price tag is hiked all the way up from the low 5K range to the mid to upper 6K range. So not going to be quite as easy to just be locking in Montrezl Harrell in your lineups in this one. The New York Knicks taking on the Indiana Pacers. Biggest piece of news we're waiting on in this one is Malcolm Brogdon. He's still questionable. It says he feels good and that he'll play Wednesday, so expect him to be back in. That's going to eliminate some value here. TJ McConnell no longer really going to be one of our top options. Chris Duarte will probably take a bit of a hit in his usage. However, it might be a case where Malcolm Brogdon actually draws some defense to him and makes Duarte's life a little bit easier as a rookie. Might not necessarily be a bad thing that Malcolm Brogdon's returning in this one, because that might be able to help his case as far as getting him open and all that fun stuff. Lil Cam asks, what's your money line picks tonight? I don't really have money line picks for the time being. I mean, I'm just covering DFS, so sorry, I'm not exactly sure what you're looking for there as far as your Vegas betting. I'm not really going to be giving out advice on that because I haven't really dug into that. So as we go along here, just take what I'm saying into account. If it seems like I'm really heavy on one team and the other team is really bad defensively, then go ahead and make your money line picks. But I don't really have any money line picks off the top of my head. So yeah, as far as anyone else in this game that's grading out, I mean, what's the bonus as far as Malcolm Brogdon coming back? I talked about that he maybe could, take a little bit of pressure off some of these guys, but also it's going to be definitely a little bit of a usage decrease to some of these guys. And then when you're factoring the New York Knicks as far as how they've graded out defensively, so far on the season, I've got them right around mid-pack as far as their defense half-court and putback stats on my Patreon sheet over here on Patreon. New York looking to be the 16th best team as far as half-courts per play and putbacks. So not exactly the best matchup in the world for Domantas Sabonis. Not the worst in the world. Right in the middle of the pack for him. So as far as my overall interest in him, he's not popping too much in my projections. And like I said, it's not as if this is like the highest paced game in the world, and it's not as if he's grading out as a real big, great play for me in the early going here. So not too interested in him, especially when you're factoring in that the return of Malcolm Brogdon should kind of cut into his usage a little bit. And then as far as Julius Randle on the other side of things, I'm not really sure that I'm looking to go to too much of him either, because when you're looking at the total in this game comes in with a 216 over-under, a 1-point spread in favor of Indiana. It's just really not the fastest-paced game. And one thing I'll say right off the bat, as far as, I mean, in the early going of this NBA season, it's very clear that these games are playing different. The pace has slowed down. These teams aren't getting these weak foul calls anymore. They're really trying to kind of bring back, I guess you could say, the old school way of basketball. And for that reason, I'm really keeping my eye on these totals and kind of hawk-eyeing them. And there's a very clear top 3 games on this slate. And it's going to be the Golden State-Charlotte game, the back end of the slate. And then the 221 total for Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets. So that's going to be a good game, Brooklyn-Atlanta. And the third game I'd be looking to that looks like it's going to be a pretty high up-paced game would be the New Orleans-Sacramento game. So those 3 games probably standing out the most to me. And like I said, the last game on the slate from a pace aspect, compared to the rest of the games we've seen so far on the season, in this Charlotte Golden State Warriors game is really standing out as far as a pace games to be targeting. Stoke Joe asks, LeVert back doesn't worry you about Duarte usage? I mean, yeah, with LeVert being back, that's definitely going to impact him a little bit. And it's really a matter of keeping an eye on LeVert's minutes and how many he's been playing. He's been somewhat limited the first 2 games, and he's going to continue to see his minutes increase. So, yeah, that's a good point. As far as Duarte, his usage is going to probably continue to just go down. And really, when we're dealing with teams that are dealing with injuries, I'm not too interested in targeting the teams that are fully healthy. Like, now that Malcolm Brogdon's coming back, this Indiana team has, if we're looking up and down their depth here, I mean, Domantas Sabonis, Malcolm Brogdon, Karis LeVert, Miles Turner, Chris Duarte, TJ McConnell, they're all going to kind of feed into each other's usage. So, yeah, I do think that LeVert being back will impact his usage, and that's certainly a good point. And then, like I talked about, we have other teams that are dealing with injuries. Philadelphia, Tobias Harris is out. That's a big piece of news. There's a possibility that Brandon Ingram continues to be out on the Pelicans side of things. We already got confirmation on the Spurs side of things that Jakob Poeltl is out, so that's going to open up some more usage for their team across the board. Minnesota, D'Angelo Russell's out. So, yeah, that's a good point. And the easiest way to be saying is I wouldn't really be wanting to target this Indiana squad if they're fully healthy, and there's all these other teams that are dealing with injuries and that are opening up more usage across the board. So, yeah, that is a good point. LeVert, Duarte, not really too interested. And then Malcolm Brogdon's back as well. So, yeah. Karis LeVert certainly does impact his usage, and that's definitely going to take a bit of an impact on how much upside he really has. Next game on the slate's Boston-Orlando. Certainly have interest in targeting this Orlando team. They've been absolutely terrible defensively, so these high usage guys on the Celtics I think are really going to have some high upside in this spot. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Both the top 2 scorers, top 2 fantasy point per guys on the Boston side, and I certainly do have interest in Robert Williams as well at 5'9". We'll continue to see him see upwards up to like 30 minutes a game. Last time out, he only saw 24, but when he's in the game, if he's able to get 30 minutes, we've seen him being able to put 44, 39 DraftKings points, and he can do it in a hurry. His price tag was up at 6'3". Now he's down to 5'9". Grading out is a very good play for me, and specifically on FanDuel too, where you get the 3 points for the blocks and steals. Robert Williams is notorious for getting blocks and steals, so on FanDuel, I'm certainly really going to like him. And like I said, looking at my matchup charts over here on my Patreon, as far as Orlando's concerned, they've been one of the worst teams in the league, specifically in transition. When I'm looking at my stats, they are the very worst team in the league, ranking 30th about all of their transition and points per possession when factoring in transition. So I think that the Celtics should be able to push the ball really quick down the floor, get their points, so it could certainly be a big upside game for some of these guys. And like I said, Robert Williams, specifically at his 5'9" price tag and over on FanDuel, is standing out as a very good play on the slate tonight for me. And I'm certainly getting excited to have exposure to him. As far as anyone else in this game, like I said, it's really those 2 guys on the Boston side, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, that could have some big upside. And then also on the Orlando side of things, their usage is pretty condensed as well. Wendell Carter Jr., Mo Bamba, Cole Anthony, all getting their fair share of usage. And Cole Anthony had a huge game last time out, putting up 61 DraftKings points. Now, that was against Minnesota, which is a much easier matchup, but Mo Bamba, Cole Anthony, these guys really taking a step up in their minutes, their usage, their production this year after kind of being stashed on the bench last year. Magic really looking to invest in their young players, so all these guys getting an increase in usage, and that's kind of the type of teams that I want to target. The usage is condensed. We know where the usage is going. We know where the upside is, and that's always going to make you excited to be targeting these guys in your fantasy lineups. Wendell Carter Jr. specifically on DraftKings really standing out to me at his 6'1" price tag here. And then on FanDuel, my favorite option would be targeting Mo Bamba. Mo Bamba putting up 1.02 FanDuel points per minute at his 6'6" price tag. He's power forward and center eligible, so certainly some guys that you could be looking to in this Orlando Magic and Boston Celtics game. Surfstoke Joe says, let's talk some Pels in Golden State Warriors game. Yeah, I mean, I can go ahead and jump to that if you want. I mean, I talked about these 2 games being 2 of the top game environments on the slate, without a doubt. On this Charlotte Golden State Warriors game, Stephen Curry, LaMelo Ball, both going to be tremendous options, both point guards in their team, both leading their teams in fantasy points per minute. And if there was ever a time for them to reach their ceiling in this game, this would be it. And both of these teams have not been too strong defensively on the season, so really getting excited to be targeting this game specifically. Golden State, the 23rd worst team as far as their transition rankings on my Patreon. And then as far as Charlotte's concerned, Charlotte hasn't been the worst as far as their transition stats defensively, but then when you're looking at their half-court and putback stats, they've been pretty bad. They're the 24th best team across the league, 25th in offensive rebound percentage rank, so they're allowing a lot of putbacks. Is Charlotte on the offensive glass, so Golden State Warriors should definitely be able to crash the glass and get some offensive putbacks in this one, so that's going to open up some more upside for you. You know, your guy in Draymond Green at 7-1 here always has triple-double upside if he's just able to score. Scoring seems to be his weakness. He'll always get the job done as far as the rebounds, the assists. But Draymond, not exactly a sharpshooter, so that's kind of his weakness in his game. But if there was ever a time where he could go and get those rebounds and points in the putbacks, this would be it, because Charlotte really struggling on the glass. So I'm really going to like some Draymond Green tonight in this game environment. And then I also do think that Terry Rozier at 6'8", after being out for a little bit, is underpriced. We've seen him play 33 minutes and 34 minutes the last 2 times out. Really grading out as a guy that could certainly surpass his upside. Specifically on FanDuel, he's only priced at 5.5, so Terry Rozier grading out is a good play there for me. And then as far as DraftKings is concerned for my top plays in this game, let's see here. Andrew Wiggins at only 6'2" is grading out as a guy that can certainly surpass his price tag and his ceiling, so I'm going to like him quite a bit. And Otto Porter Jr. at only 3.6 is a guy he continues to not see that many minutes. If you can just get some more minutes, he could have some big upside. They're just not feeding him any minutes, so that's a little bit unfortunate. At his 3.6 price tag on DraftKings, I'd have a lot more interest if he could surpass that 20-minute mark, but they're just not really willing to give him those minutes right now, so I'd much rather go to the guys that are getting all the minutes. Miles Bridges has had a great start to the season. He's put up 40-plus DraftKings points pretty much every single game. He's been producing at a high rate on both DraftKings and FanDuel. Like we talked about, this high up-tempo game is going to be one we're certainly wanting to target. And I mean, I think my favorite play in this game, based on his price tag, his usage, and all the above, is going to be LaMelo Ball. He's 8'6". We've seen him put up 52 and 57 DraftKings points the last 2 times out. Fast, up-tempo game here. I'm not worried about the Golden State Warriors defense. And if there was ever a spot for LaMelo to be able to put up 60+, this would be it. So yeah, I'm getting pretty excited to play some LaMelo Ball tonight. He's probably got to be my favorite play from this game. And overall, it's definitely a good game environment to be going to. So, and then, let's see. New Orleans Pelicans taking on the Sacramento Kings. That was the other game you wanted to hear about. Well, if there's no Brandon Ingram, it's certainly going to be another great spot for Jonas Valanciunas, Devontae Graham, and Josh Hart. Those guys really making a lot of sense for sure if there's not going to be any Brandon Ingram, because they're going to get a big usage bump. If Brandon Ingram's in, though, that's going to impact them in a pretty negative way, and we're not going to necessarily get that news early on here. We're still waiting on all of our news, but this game's the late game at 10 o'clock, so we might not have all of that confirmed. So we're definitely going to need to be waiting on some news here to be able to kind of make that final decision. And we just got confirmation that the Raptors are going to start Trent Jr., Svi Mikhailuk, Anunoby, and Achioa. So definitely still like some Svi Mikhailuk tonight. I talked about him a little bit, but yeah, Jonas Valanciunas is the guy that I'm getting the most excited about in this game. If there's no Brandon Ingram, he could certainly have a big game. The Sacramento side has not been good defensively all season long, continuing to target them both in the half court and in transition, but really struggling because when I'm looking at where they rank overall, actually in transition they've been not too bad, but then when I'm pulling up the half court and putbacks, as far as that's concerned, Sacramento ranking more towards the middle of the pack, ranking 17th overall in the league. So not quite as good in that category of things. And that's where Jonas Valanciunas can come into play. They rank 28th as far as their offensive rebounding percentage and the amount of putbacks that they're giving up. So that's going to be great news for Jonas Valanciunas. 28th overall, not good. And he should be able to get plenty of putback opportunities and be able to capitalize them. He's been producing at a very high rate here in the early season. Finally getting some minutes in his new role with this New Orleans Pelicans squad. And like I said, probably like him regardless, but hopefully Brandon Ingram's out. De'Aaron Fox at 8.5 is the other guy I'm really looking to lock in on this game. At 8.5 on DraftKings, I do like his price tag a little bit more on FanDuel. He's just priced a little bit more friendly. So on FanDuel specifically, I'm getting pretty excited to play some De'Aaron Fox when you're looking at his price tag over there. He's only priced at 7.7 and grading out as a great play. He'll get you your blocks, he'll get you your steals with that 3-point bonus for both of those on DraftKings. On FanDuel. So I'm always getting excited to play those guys that can get you your blocks and steals. De'Aaron Fox, certainly that guy. Aaron Reborn asks, in a points league, someone offered me Curry for Chris Paul and Vucevic. Should I do it? I would hope you're talking about Stephen Curry. And no, I wouldn't do that. I think you're getting a lot more value from Chris Paul and Nikola Vucevic. Both those guys are pretty heavy usage guys on their teams. I think that's asking for a little too much to be getting Stephen Curry. I don't know your scoring format and that kind of thing, so that would kind of help me know a little bit further. But no, I don't think that's a good trade. I'd probably just stick with those two guys you have. Joe Val is beasting and Hart starting to heat up, but I'm partial. Go Pels. Yeah, I mean, Joe Val's a beast right now. Joe Val's always been a beast. Now he's finally getting some minutes, so he's going to continue to do big things in New Orleans as far as I'm concerned. All right, so we kind of just made our way through the whole slate for the most part here. Let's see. Dallas taking on the San Antonio Spurs. Kristaps Porzingis is the big news we're still waiting on. If he's out, that's going to be a big usage bump for Luka Doncic. That's also going to open up some more minutes for Dorian Finney-Smith, Josh Green, and we'll see Powell continue to see some minutes, and then also Maxi Kleber continues to be out, so that's going to open up some more minutes for Powell as well. And then on the Spurs side of thing, it's really Drew Eubanks. That's the biggest piece of news here. With there being no more Podol, he's obviously going to get a big usage bump and minutes increase. And we're still waiting on the confirmation of the starting lineup. But once we get that, if he's in, he's going to be a great play. I'm not worried about the presence of Dwight Powell down low at all, especially if there's no Kristaps Porzingis. Should be a really good spot for him. He's the minimum salary on DraftKings. On FanDuel, they've got him pretty reasonably as well at only a 3.7 price tag. He's putting up 1.13 FanDuel points per minute, and then as far as DraftKings is concerned, he's putting up 1.09 DK points per minute. I got him projected for right around 22 minutes, so on DraftKings at minimum salary, should be able to surpass his price tag for his upside pretty easily here. Colin asks, with Curry being the thumbnail, is he your favorite GPP play? No, he's not my favorite GPP play. I put him as a thumbnail because, I mean, this is a very good, fast, up-tempo game environment here, so he's certainly a good play. And if there's ever a time for him to reach his upside, this would be the one. And like I said, really a big reason why I put him as a thumbnail is just overall this game environment. It comes with a 226.5 over-under. It's a 6-point spread in favor of the Golden State Warriors. That's by far one of the highest totals we've seen on the season so far. The totals have been way down this season after seeing these climb up more towards like 240 in some seasons past. So I certainly do like Stephen Curry. It's just, is he my favorite tournament play? Nah, I'm going to have a hard time telling you that. There's a lot of really good options on this slate. So I wouldn't say he's my favorite play. Is Kevin Durant a good play for this slate? I know he will be overlooked. Yeah, Patrick, I don't know which site you're playing on, so, I mean, Kevin Durant's certainly a good play. My rule with this Brooklyn side is you kind of have to pick whether you want to go with Kevin Durant or James Harden, because kind of with the way they play with their ISO ball, chances are one of them are going to have a much bigger game than the other one, so you kind of have to pick one or the other. So, yeah, I do think that Kevin Durant's a good play. But with that being said, you're kind of picking between James Harden and Kevin Durant based upon your lineup construction here, and that would be my approach here. As far as the Atlanta side and how they've graded out defensively so far in the season, their overall matchup, go ahead and pull up my sheet as far as who has the better matchup. Let's see, Kevin Durant and the opponent position rank, they're 8th and 10th against his position, so not exactly the best matchup, and then the same rule is going to apply for James Harden. So, yeah, I don't know. Brooklyn, it's really James Harden and Kevin Durant every single time out, but like I said, I'd probably be picking one of them. I think it's just kind of hard with them both priced up for them to both reach their ceilings. Is it possible? Yeah, but I just don't think that I would really want to be taking on that risk when you can just play one and have a much more likelihood of them reaching their ceiling. Coolest Amazon products asks, I have Derek White, Lillard on FanDuel for point guard. Yeah, on FanDuel specifically, I do think that Damian Lillard continues to be underpriced. However, I mean, this is a little bit of an anecdotal data standpoint, but Damian Lillard always starts off really slow in the season. It's just a thing with him. Like, it seems like every single year he starts out slow, and it's like, what's going on with Damian Lillard? And then towards the end of the season, he starts to really heat up. But on FanDuel specifically, I do like Damian Lillard quite a bit. He grades out as a great play for me. I talked about liking LaMelo Ball on FanDuel. I like him for sure. De'Aaron Fox I like quite a bit at his 7.7 price tag. Lonzo Ball at 6K is another point guard I'd be looking to at FanDuel that I think is a little bit underpriced. So, yeah, I like Damian Lillard. And then as far as having Derek White at your point guard position, he grades out as a pretty decent play for me over there on FanDuel as well. So, no issues with you going to him. I do like him a little bit less than some of those other guys we just listed. So maybe if you can mix up your lineup a little bit. With Derek White at 6'1", like I'd probably rather be occupying my point. I don't know what the rest of your lineup looks like, so it's kind of hard to be saying that. But yeah, I mean, I would probably go to a Alonzo Ball, LaMelo Ball, a Stephen Curry, a Dame Lillard. I do like that you have him in your lineup here. So, yeah. The other thing that we should mention, I guess I haven't even touched on it yet, but you asked my favorite tournament play. A guy that I really like is going to be Joel Embiid. There's no Tobias Harris in this game. That means all the usage is going to funnel Joel Embiid, and he's been dealing with a little bit of injuries, and he got the day off in the last game. So not only is Joel Embiid going to get a huge usage increase, but he's also well rested. Didn't have to play last time out. He played 29 minutes the game before. November 1st was their last game. He's had multiple days of rest. He should be able to full go here, get a full amount of minutes. And I think that his upside is massive. And then when you're factoring in the matchup against the Chicago Bulls team and Nikola Vucevic, as far as how they've graded out so far defensively, looking at my transition stats for the Chicago side of things, let's see. They grade out as the 19th best team as far as their defense in transition. And then as far as the half-court and putbacks for their defense, which of course is going to be pretty important when we're targeting Joel Embiid. Chicago coming in as the third best team against the center position. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but that's as far as the points per play rank. When you look at my half court and putback tool as far as their offensive rebounding percentage rank, the amount of offensive rebounds they're giving up to opponents, they rank 23rd in the league. That's not good. Giving up 22.8% of those rebounds. And Joel Embiid, of course, very good rebounder. Going to have a bunch of upside. You factor in that Chicago's been struggling on the offensive glass. I was asked earlier who my favorite tournament play would be. It's probably going to be Joel Embiid. I mean, I'm going to do my final projection run and everything here, but yeah, I'm pretty high on Joel Embiid. I think he's just going to have a massive ceiling game here. He's had some pretty lackluster games in the early going. He's been somewhat limited, but like I said, the fact that he's coming off this rest is what's really making me excited to play him because he should be a full go here. So yeah, I'm getting excited to play some Joel Embiid tonight. He's probably my favorite play on the slate. So I'm going to be having a lot of Joel Embiid in my lineups for sure. Dean Wade's going to start in place of Lauri Markkanen. That news just came in. So Dean Wade, traditionally not really that good of a fantasy point producer. So I'm probably not getting too excited to be playing him, honestly. He's only 3-1 over here on DraftKings, though. And let's see. As far as his overall production on the season so far at that 3-1 price tag, we'll go ahead and figure that out real quick for you guys. Dean Wade, if we can find him here. Dean Wade. Putting up 0.79 DraftKings points per minute. So, yeah, that's not terrible at only 3-1. Do I think he's my favorite value play on the slate? Probably not. There's a lot of other really good values. We talked about the Philly side. Really liking Niang. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. I really don't know how. Georges Niang. He's going to be a really good play. And then I'm also going to like, on the Philadelphia side of things, Furkan Korkmaz quite a bit here. Can really shoot the 3-ball, going to get a bunch of minutes, can really produce at a high rate. So those guys both getting a pretty big bump up in usage. And then, of course, I mean, let's not leave out the main candidates that are already getting the usage. And Tyrese Maxey, Seth Curry, they should both be getting a bump up in usage as well. They're just not quite as friendly priced, but both those guys can certainly reach their ceilings with there being no Tobias Harris. All these guys in this Philly offense are going to get some big bumps up in usage for sure. So PrizePicks has Steph Curry at 30.5 points. I'm leaning the over. I don't know if you're saying Steph Curry or Steph Curry. You just put S Curry, so if you could let me know on that, I can give you a little bit of a clear answer. That's a little bit confusing with those Curry brothers. So, who was the lock of the night? I didn't have a lock of the night. I wasn't able to put out a video this morning, so no lock of the night today. But if I had to pick one on the fly, it would probably be Joel Embiid. I really like Joel Embiid. He got the rest day off. He's coming back. There's no Tobias Harris. He should have a big bump up in his usage here. And if there's ever something to be worried about with Joel Embiid, it's just him getting injured. But he got the full day off in the last game. He's had like 3 or 4 days rest. I have a feeling he's going to be a full go as far as minutes. I really like Joel Embiid in this spot. So, yeah, I don't have an official lock of the night because I didn't make out my video earlier. But I'll go ahead and give you guys Joel Embiid on the fly. I like him a lot. Favorite value players on FanDuel, Savon asks. Yeah, I can give you a few of my favorite value plays on FanDuel. Let's see. In the early going, we talked about Drew Eubanks. He's really standing out to me on FanDuel. He's only priced at 3.7, so I think he's going to be a good value for sure on this slate tonight. As far as anyone else that's standing out to me on this slate, let's see here. On FanDuel, Drew Eubanks, Furkan Korkmaz we talked about on that Philadelphia side of things. Going to like him quite a bit as a value. Georges Niang on Philadelphia is another guy that I'm really looking at on FanDuel for sure at his cheap price tag. I think that you could certainly be going to him in this one at his cheap price tag across the industry. He's priced at 3.7 on FanDuel as well. So he's another guy I'd be looking to for sure on the slate tonight. And yeah, I mean, there's a few of my top value plays for you. Those are the guys I'm really looking to lock in on. Is Anthony Edwards more of a GPP play or cash play? I honestly think you can play him in both. There's no D'Angelo Russell, so he's going to get a big bump up in usage. He should have plenty of opportunity here. So I would say that I like him in both. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. When you take a guy like a D'Angelo Russell out that's a high usage guy, that's going to certainly make Anthony Edwards a much better play. So for that reason, I definitely do like Anthony Edwards tonight. And, Karl Anthony Towns, and then you got Malik Beasley also, who might be a guy that goes underlooked. I'm not sure if people are really going to be aware of Malik Beasley, but he's a really good fantasy point producer. And now that you're factoring in that there's going to be no D'Angelo Russell, he's another guy that could get a big bump up here. What do you think of Wendell Carter? Yeah, I think Wendell Carter's a good play. If you just joined into the stream, I talked about that Magic Celtics game earlier. And I think that both sides, the usage is pretty clear as to where it's going. And I talked about how on the Orlando side of things, a lot of these guys were kind of held back from minutes last year because they were kind of behind some guys. Now they're finally taking a step forward. Mo Bamba, Cole Anthony, Wendell Carter Jr. I don't know what website you're playing on, but if you're playing on DraftKings specifically, I really like Wendell Carter Jr. there. I like him on both, but on DraftKings, I like him a little bit more. But I'd be willing to play him on both. I would. He grades out as a good play on both sides of things. Chris says, sorry, I was late. Yeah, no, it's all good, man. I don't mind running it back for you. Good question, so keep them coming. Yeah, any other questions here? Around 6 o'clock, Chris says he is playing on DK. Yeah, so Wendell Carter Jr., great play on DraftKings for sure. Definitely going to like him. All right, see if we have any more news here coming in. See, Trae Young's available to play. John Collins, a game-time decision. Todd Gibson available to play, so nothing really too big here as far as injury news. We got the starting lineup confirmed on the Raptors side of things. So, Svi Mikhailuk, Trent Jr., Anunoby, Achiola. I talked about how that rotation's really solidified, so they'll be good plays. So, I'm definitely going to like the Raptors guys tonight. And, yeah, if you're just tuning in and talked about I like Joel Embiid a lot. Paul George is another guy that's going to have some massive upside at his 10-9 price tag on DraftKings and across the industry. He's put up 60 and 62 DraftKings points the last 2 times out. He's going to continue to be a tremendous play until Kawhi Leonard comes back. So Paul George is another guy I'd definitely be wanting to get some exposure to in my tournaments. Similar to a Joel Embiid, I think both those guys just are going to be really relied on in their team. And then Luka Doncic kind of goes up there as well if there's no Kristaps Porzingis as far as his usage rate. Kind of the 3 guys I would say based on the usage and the injury news and all that stuff would be probably having the highest ceiling. Nikola Jokic taking on Memphis as well. Haven't even got a chance to talk about him yet. Memphis' defense early on has been really bad. Looking at my defensive transition stats as far as Memphis, they're not too bad in the transition aspect of things. As far as their points per possession, they're ranked 12th, but the half court and putbacks, I saw Memphis early on. They are dead last in my rankings for points per play rank in the half court setting. We know Nikola Jokic, a really good guy in the post as far as passing out of the post, pick and roll. He could shoot the ball, he can assist, he can rebound, he can do it all. So looking to be a really good matchup for Nikola Jokic. And his upside of things. So he's maybe a pivot. I would lean going towards Joel Embiid just because Tobias Harris is ruled out. And like I said, if I had to pick one guy that I'm really prioritizing on this slate, it's going to be Joel Embiid. I've said it many times on the stream, but I just want to reiterate it because I think he's going to absolutely smash tonight, and I'll be having him in my lineups for sure. Let's see. What teams should we target today? I'm trying to figure out where to start on this huge slate as far as defense and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned a few teams that we're looking to target. I don't really care too much about defense in all aspects because, I mean, when you're dealing with teams that have injuries and guys out and usage is going up and the guys are underpriced, there's price tags in daily fantasy sports, so I'm not quite as worried about the defense side of things, but we talked about targeting The Kings with some Pelicans guys in the transition. This Charlotte Golden State Warriors game is expected to move at a fast pace. I don't mind targeting that. I talked about Memphis' struggles in the half-court setting, so I just talked about that with Nikola Jokic. As far as anyone else, I talked about targeting the Washington defense with Toronto guys. Their rotation's really solidified. We have Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Gary Trent Jr. There's not going to be any Scotty Barnes here, so I like Svi Mikhailuk a lot tonight. If you're just tuning into the channel, I talked about playing him at only 3.7. I think he's a great play. And yeah, I mean, there's a few guys I'd be targeting. And then I like the Boston guys taking on Orlando. Orlando's been a defense that's been struggling early on as well. So Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, I think have potential to really reach their ceiling games in this one. So I'd have no issues really going to them either. With so much value on the slate, will ownership be spread out a lot? Colin asks. Yeah, I mean, I think ownership's going to be spread out as is just because it's such a big slate. I mean, an 11-game slate. The bigger the slate is, the less I worry about ownership. Like, if it's like a 4 or 5 game slate and these guys are getting some massive ownership, then I start to worry a little bit. But on an 11-game slate, honestly, man, I wouldn't really be worrying too much about your ownership. Just play the plays that you really like. Play your lineups that construct really well. It's 11 games. I don't think there's going to be too much of a concern on ownership. So I would just be focusing on building the best possible lineup you can with the most upside in tournaments. And then as far as cash is concerned, just play the guys that are playing a lot of minutes out there. And the guys that are producing at the highest point per minute rates, and you should be looking pretty good in your lineups. That'd be my approach on an 11-game slate. All right, another question here. Having 3 players from the 10 p.m. game, 2 people from the 8 p.m. game, and 4 people from the 7 p.m. game so that the upside for my score can be even. Yeah, I don't think that should really be in your process. The only thing I would say is if you have guys that have some injuries in the late game, like a good example would be Brandon Ingram. We're still waiting on Brandon Ingram's news, so maybe if you're really high on the Pelicans guys, if he's out and you could replace some guys in maybe the Golden State Warriors and Charlotte game, if he ends up being in, then I would wait till the late games, but I wouldn't base my lineups on spreading out based on like the game time. That doesn't really matter except for late swap. Which you can get a big advantage with late swap if you're able to kind of take advantage of some late news. Some guys already have their players locked in, but no, don't worry about that, man. Just play guys that play a lot of minutes and produce at a high rate. Preferably have a good matchup, but also guys that their teams are dealing with some injuries. We just got a bunch of news about guys being ruled out with COVID. I talked about Joel Embiid, the Philadelphia side of things. Tobias Harris is out. Ben Simmons is out. That's going to be a big bump up in usage to some of these guys. So that would be like, Tyrese Maxey, Seth Curry, Furkan Korkmaz, Tybull specifically on FanDuel could be an interesting play. I think he could have a big game on both sides, but then also Niang. That's a priority for me. Playing guys on teams that are dealing with injuries, they're going to get a bump up in their usage. They're going to get a bump up in their minutes. And they can get a big bump up in their production. But I don't care when the game starts, except for the fact of the pace of the game, and maybe if there's some pending news, trying to wait towards the end to be able to change my lineups to have a bit of an advantage on the field there. But to answer your question, I don't worry about spacing out my plays from various games unless there's injury news involved. On FanDuel, who's a better player, Robert Williams or Bamba from Patrick? Yeah, that's a tough question, Patrick. I really like both of those guys on FanDuel. So you could possibly play both of them. But yeah, let's see. I'll give you an answer from my projections right now, which shout out to Patrick. I know you're one of the biggest supporters on the channel, so I'm going to give you a shout out for sure. Appreciate all your support, man. Patreon member, the only member on the YouTube channel as well, so he deserves a shout out for that. If you want to join the KJK DFS fan club, I know Patrick you are, so thank you very much for all your support. And yeah, I would go with Robert Williams based on my projections, but it's really, really close, man. That's a tough call. So I like both of those guys a lot on FanDuel. So All right, guys, 6:14. We got a few more minutes for questions, so I'll keep an eye on the chat. Let me know any questions you have on DraftKings or FanDuel. We're covering both sides of things. Let's see if we have any more injury news here. Let's see. Paul Millsap is available to play. Bogdan Bogdanovic available to play. Doesn't look like there's any other too crazy news here. Let's see. Looks like we got 14 people viewing. If you guys could take a second to leave a like on the video, that'd be greatly appreciated. Helps me out. And I'll be here all NBA DFS season long, breaking down these slates, help you guys win some money. And yeah, let's see. We talked about Embiid being one of my top plays. We talked about the fast up-tempo game in the Charlotte Golden State Warriors side. Let's see if there are other questions. Savon asks, how do you know if you have too much value in a lineup? I know it's a stupid question, but sometimes I have extra money and I want to spend up, but then again, I want to leave it how it is. Yeah, so I would base your spend up depending upon your projections. Like, projections are very big in NBA DFS. If you are interested in my premium package, that's linked below in the description. I would highly recommend it. And my projection model is pretty simple. I have a multiplier feature on mine. So based upon a player's price tag and his minutes and his upside, I have a multiplier metric that tells me how much a player is expected to multiply their salary by. And then based upon that, I'll put him in my lineup. And if I have a bunch of value left on the table, or if I have a bunch of salary left on the table, what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and sort my sheet by the actual fantasy points that the players are projected for. And if I have enough salary to go up to a guy that's projected as one of the top projected guys on the slate, I'll just slide my I'll just slide that guy in. And then I also factor in the pace of the game, the total of the game, the defense, all that fun stuff. I have all those sheets on my Patreon. Like, you're getting a little bit of a sneak peek on my screen here, but this is really nothing. If you have the Patreon, you'd have what all these guys are projected for as far as their minutes are concerned, the multiplier metric, their fantasy points per dollar. Then you'd be able to scroll over and see all of my matchup sheets as well, my core plays, which is what I give you guys. I give you my top 3 core plays, and then you see half-court putback, defensive half-court putback transition. So yeah, kind of a long answer there, but I build my lineups with the tools that I provide on Patreon. So that's honestly how I build my lineups. I use the same tools, and if you're interested, you can purchase them down below in the description. If you don't really play that much money or you just want to play for fun, that's fine too. But if you're playing quite a bit of money in NBA and you're not using a projection system, you're at a really big disadvantage. So I'd highly recommend you either use mine or use someone else's projection model, because you're kind of going to need that to succeed in today's NBA DFS. I think we all want to know, how have you done so far this year on your NBA picks? LOL. So I don't know what you mean by my NBA picks. Like, as far as my personal lineups, I mean, I've had a pretty good start to the season. Up until the last couple nights, I've taken a few losses, but I think the first 5 or 6 slates I hadn't lost. And I am strictly a tournament player, so I play in the top 20% payout tournaments with like the $100,000 the first. So, I mean, with my playing style, I go on winning streaks, I go on losing streaks. A lot of guys that provide content around the industry don't want to talk about when they lose. I mean, you're going to lose if you're playing the right way and you're playing with my style. You're looking to win, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 a couple times a year, and you're going to lose a lot in between in order to do that, because you have to be able to take risks to get there. So I don't know what you meant. Have you won big so far? I guess I mean. I don't know what big is for you. I've won, few $1,000s in a night off a $600 entry on DraftKings multiple times. So if that's winning big to you, then yeah, I've had some pretty big wins. I haven't had like a top 5 or a top 3 or anything crazy like that yet, but I'm doing decent so far. Hopefully tonight I'll be having a big win. That'd be nice. Chris says, yeah, you've put me in the green multiple times. I appreciate it. Yeah, man, I'm here all season long. I'll be giving you advice. Like I said, if you really want to dig in and get some further advice from me, check out the Patreon package, link below. You can get in the Discord chat. You get my projections. You get direct access to me, all that fun stuff. But I also will be providing this for free. So I'm here to help. All right, 6:20. I'm going to be here for about 10 more minutes, guys. So any and all questions you have, make sure you drop them in the chat. We just got news that Patrick Beverley is the likely starter for D'Angelo Russell. So that's a pretty big piece of news. So Patrick Beverley could be getting a pretty big bump up here. We already kind of assumed he was going to be starting. But yeah, Pat Bev at only 3.7 on DraftKings is certainly going to be an interesting value here. I'm sure that when I do my final projection run here and I adjust for the news, he's probably going to be grading out as a pretty good play for me. For sure. For the time being, I'm just looking at my DraftKings projections here for Mr. Patrick Beverley at 3.7. He's not grading out as too good of a play here, but I think that's because when I make this final run, I'm going to be putting those that final adjusted minute barrier in there. So, all right, guys. Any more questions? Feel free to please let me know. About 10 more minutes. I guess I'll just kind of reiterate some of my top plays on DraftKings over here. I talked about I really like Joel Embiid. I just think that Joel Embiid is my guy tonight. If I had to pick a lock of the night, it would be Joel Embiid. I just think that he's going to have a lot of usage. I talked about the Bulls struggling on the offensive glass. I like the fact that he didn't play last game, so he's going to be well rested up. This guy, we're always worried about his minutes, his injuries, all that stuff. So that makes me feel a lot better about the play, and there's no Tobias Harris. So I think he's just going to be an absolute usage beast tonight, and I think he could have a huge game. So I'll just reiterate, I like Joel Embiid a lot. And also, I think that a lot of the guys are going to be paying down at the center position tonight with guys like Drew Eubanks for value, which makes a lot of sense in your lineups. Maybe a Dwight Powell if there's no Kristaps Porzingis. So you can pay up if you're a tournament player, pay up at the center position, makes you a little bit different in your lineups. It's a good way to get to the top of those leaderboards. You got to be different. So kind of all that stuff's making me like Joel Embiid quite a bit here tonight. Patrick says, thanks for the shout out. Thanks for all the support, Patrick. You're the man. You are the man. Patrick, Patreon member, channel member, always saying thank you for the content. Appreciate your support, man. I will play Robert Williams. Got Draymond at the other forward on FanDuel. Patrick, yeah, I like that. I like both those guys on FanDuel specifically, especially when you get the points and the blocks. Both those guys are going to be very good for that in your lineups. I talked about liking that game environment and this Golden State Warriors Charlotte side. Draymond's put up 38, 47, 40 FanDuel points last 3 times out. So I certainly approve of those two guys in your power forward slots tonight. All right. Any other questions, guys? Got about 5 more minutes before I head out. If we have any more news here, we can talk about it. We got the news on Patrick Beverley starting, so we know that. Doesn't look like there's anything else out right now. So we're waiting. Biggest pieces of news right now, I guess we could talk about that, are going to be, it's going to be Kristaps Porzingis. For sure, we're still waiting on that news in this Dallas game because that's going to impact the rest of the rotation, the usage, etc. We're going to see a big bump up in usage for Jalen Brunson and Luka Doncic. Specifically would be my 2 favorite players in that game if Kristaps Porzingis is out. And then also it's going to open up some more minutes for Dorian Finney-Smith and Dwight Powell. And then as far as the Pelicans game is concerned, we're still waiting on the Brandon Ingram news. So that's pretty big news as well. Savant says, favorite point guard option. You got to kind of tell me what website you're playing on and what format, whether you're in cash, all that stuff. But I'll just tell you off the top of my head, my favorite point guard option would probably be LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball in that high up-tempo game in the Charlotte Golden State Warriors game. So he's at 8.6. I think he has massive upside on DraftKings. I think he has massive upside on FanDuel. And I think he is underpriced for his upside in his role on this team. I wouldn't be surprised in the least to see LaMelo Ball priced more up towards the Steph Currys of the world, that kind of range before the season's over. Guy's an absolute fantasy point per minute beast as far as what he's been producing on the season so far. Let's see. On DraftKings, he's been putting up 1.41 DraftKings points per minute. That's really good over an 8-game sample size. And then as far as FanDuel is concerned, LaMelo Ball putting up 1.38 DK points. I'm sorry, FanDuel points per minute. So, favorite point guard option would be LaMelo Ball. And cash games. Yeah, I like him in cash as well. So, Savon, I definitely like LaMelo Ball. Patrick says, sign up for his Patreon. It really helps you build a winning lineup. Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate that. Hope you're doing good. Keep up the winning. Always like to hear that my Patreons are doing good. And I will be updating my core plays right after the stream when I get off. So keep your eyes out for that, Patrick, and ask me any questions in the Discord. All right, guys. Looks like we got 15 people in here currently. If you could all leave a like, that'd be greatly appreciated. If you've enjoyed the stream at all, if you feel like I've provided you with any value, it takes 2 seconds. It's free. It helps me out in a big way. I'm going to try to continue to do these streams all season long as much as I can. Try to help you guys out, give you the latest news. I've been wanting to live stream for a while. If you're new to the channel, this is my second or third live stream. So if you're enjoying it, hit the like button. Not getting too much viewership on my streams right now. So the ones that are here, thank you very much. Appreciate you tuning in and spending some time with me. And like I said, hopefully I'm helping you out here. And if you're going to have any confusion, ask questions because I'm here to help. Been playing Daily Fantasy Sports since 2016, so I got plenty of advice, plenty of value to offer you. Let's see. Chris Duarte for cash? No, I would not do Chris Duarte in cash. We talked about this Indiana Pacers team starting to get healthy again. So I think that Duarte's, between Karis LeVert and Malcolm Brogdon, he's going to get his usage cut into pretty big here. So no, I wouldn't do Duarte in cash. I think there's a lot of other better options. Josh Hart for cash, Jalen Suggs for cash. Josh Hart would be my favorite option out of all those guys that you talked about, and that's assuming Brandon Ingram's out. And yeah. And you said you're playing on FanDuel, so as far as my favorite cash option on FanDuel in your lineups, probably one of those Philadelphia guys that's expected to step into a big role. So Georges Niang or Furkan Korkmaz. They're both going to get a big bump up in usage, both get a big bump up in minutes. So I think that those two guys would be a pretty good place to start with your cash builds on FanDuel. Last game out, 31 minutes, 36.5 FanDuel points. Going to be slightly impacted with Embiid returning. So if you want to go with Korkmaz instead, I don't blame you, but those would be two guys I'm looking to for cash. And yeah, that's it, guys. I'm going to give you another minute to ask your questions. I'll gladly answer them before I head out. So please leave any questions you have, and I'm going to head out in 1 minute. So last questions. Already talked about it, but like I said, if you could leave a like, that's great. If you want to sign up for my Patreon, that's linked below in the description. You get access to all the tools I use in building my lineups. I think it's going to help you out in a big way. I'm really excited with the way this stuff's coming together, these tools, like building my own lineups here, going over my projections. Like I said, it's simplified. I've been having a great start to the season. All the defense half-court putback stats, transition stats. You get my core plays. You get my projections. And I'm feeling good about this slate tonight. Trying to take down that 100K contest on FanDuel. That's where I'll be playing most of my action tonight. So I'm excited. I play on FanDuel and DraftKings, but typically speaking, I'll only play on one site per night and kind of lock in. Usually I do it based upon the biggest prize, so I forget the name of the contest I'm in over here on FanDuel, whatever. I think it's a $150 entry, 100K to first. So that's the one. That's the one I'll be playing tonight. So I'm excited to hopefully be at the top of that leaderboard. Any love for Steph? DreadP2805. Yeah, I like Steph quite a bit. I think if there's ever a game to reach his upside, this would be it. He's a guy that I typically like to play on DraftKings a lot more than FanDuel, though, just because FanDuel is a lot less reliant on scoring. You get the 3 points for the blocks and steals, so I'd much rather go to Steph over on DraftKings. So if you're playing on FanDuel, I'd probably pivot to a guy that's a little bit cheaper, honestly, and or maybe even Luka Doncic if there's no Kristaps Porzingis. But on FanDuel, I like LaMelo Ball, I like Damian Lillard, I like De'Aaron Fox, I like Devontae Graham if there's no Brandon Ingram. Derek White, someone talked about earlier on the stream, I like him. Lonzo Ball at 6K, I like quite a bit. I think he's too underpriced for his possible upside. He hasn't had a huge upside game the last few times out, but he's a guy that's capable of getting, 4, 5, 6 steals a game sometimes. He got 4 steals in that game against Utah. He put up 28 FanDuel points. If he could score and get some more assists, more boards, you'd be looking at a really big game. So, yeah, those are some of my top options. All right, guys, that's all for me. As far as this live stream is concerned, I'm going to hop in the Discord for all my Patreon members, answer any questions you guys have up until lock. I'm going to give you my core plays. Before you head out, if you enjoyed the content, if you could leave a like on this video, that'd be greatly appreciated. I'll be back tomorrow with some more content for you. I try to get a video out in the morning, try to get a live stream every single day possible. I do have a lot of other stuff going on with work. This isn't the only thing I do. So, yeah, if you did enjoy it, if you could leave a like, that would be appreciated. I'm going to wish you guys all the best of luck tonight. For my Patreon members, I'll see you in the Discord chat. Going to give you guys the last upgrade for my projections. And, yeah, we'll see you in the next one, guys. Good luck tonight. Hopefully you win some big money. Play Joel Embiid in your lineups. Really high on Joel Embiid. There's no Tobias Harris. He's going to go off tonight. That's my call. So, that's all, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Best of luck tonight, and peace out.